Perfect. And just I'll mute my one there for a minute or two, and we can let them all in.
You'll what?
I'll mute my microphone there for a few minutes, and we can let them all in.
There's only two.
Two so far. Yeah, there won't be too many more.
No.
If there's very few in it, I won't even do the task with them. I'll just keep on through them.
And you know what you might do if you want? Because I did this the last time. Remember the Monday I did for you?
Yeah.
Just, guys, has anyone done the TURAS? Because if they're already done one, then you can fly through the principles, because they should know them inside out, and just get onto the relevant stuff to the under 16, 17, or, you know.
Yeah, you might just fire across a message to my phone that the number that's on it.
The amount of people that's on it?
Yeah, I can't see too many more coming onto it now, to be honest with you.
You want WhatsApp or message?
Oh, whichever doesn't make it. I'll get it either way.
Okay.
Just so we know the numbers we're dealing with, and then I can kind of ask it. I'll ask that in the second slide, maybe.
Yeah. You ask what? Ask me?
No, I'll ask. Has anyone done the TURAS before?
Done it, yeah. I'm just doing a test there too so far. Did you get that, yeah?
Yeah, got that there just after saying it. So it should be.
And let them in there now, will I?
Yeah, no bother. I'll just mute mine.
Okay. Hi, folks. Welcome there. I've just let everyone in from the lobby. We get going at 8 o'clock sharp, so we've got 2 minutes to go, if that's okay with yourself. Just while we're waiting for 8 o'clock to start, guys, there's a new feature on this. It's called hands up or raise your hand. So when Philly's giving the presentation, if anyone has a question, if you just raise your hand, I'll let him know, because he can't see what I'm looking at. So I'll let him know that you've raised your hand for the question, and I'll get him to answer it, okay? You can see that stuff there that, you know, if you have your camera off, you might see what's in the background, and Microsoft's are turned off unless you raise your hand. And for your info, it is being recorded just for our own purposes in Wicklow. So, Philly, if you want to come in there, you can kick off.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks very much, Willie. So again, look, just to reiterate there, if any of you want to ask any questions throughout the presentation, if you just use the hands up or raise your hand, sorry, just to notify Willie, he'll get the question across to myself and stuff like that. If you are having problems with that, you can indeed use the chat function if needed. And again, the presentation is recorded just for our own training purposes here in Wicklow. Again, we do ask that you keep your camera off and also your microphone turned off. That's just basically a protection issue, just to make sure there's nothing in the background or anything like that that you don't want being seen. So look, it is 8 o'clock. I won't keep you. First of all, thanks very much for joining us tonight. I hope you are all enjoying the good weather. Again, look, the purpose of this presentation is to go through TURAS. So TURAS essentially is the coach's journey, and it's also the player's journey. And just before we go any further, I'll just ask how many people have actually done TURAS before. If you just want to throw it into the group chat if you have done it before, or if you know what TURAS is kind of about already, because I know we've done one for every age group nearly the whole way up. So some people may have seen it, and it'll just make the presentation flow a bit better if everyone has seen it. If not,
yeah, we've 3, 4. It looks like everyone on the call has done it before, Philly. 5, yeah.
So look, we won't dwell overly too much on it as such. We'll just kind of do a recap of it, because unfortunately the one thing with TURAS is TURAS doesn't change dramatically, because as you know, the 5 principles are the 5 principles, and then it's just how you use them. The other thing that will be slightly different is along the way we have different resources and stuff like that. So I'll point you in the direction of those, which is probably the main reason for the likes of this. So without further ado, we'll just press on. And again, look, if you have any questions whatsoever, it could be a great opportunity to ask them here tonight as well. Tonight's hurling webinar obviously is designed for the 16 and 17-year-old player, or what's probably known now as minor. Again, look, this is hoping that we'll be able to understand and deliver age-appropriate activities for the 16 and 17-year-olds in our clubs. What we're going to look on, like I said, we'll touch on the TURAS principles. We'll look at the total playing performance model. You may have seen that also in previous webinars. We'll just run through that as well, and then look, we'll focus mainly around the coaching resources, and if you have any kind of more questions around those areas, we'll try and make it specific enough, because I think there's a smaller number on this one, so it'd be brilliant just to get a few ideas or a few questions throughout the presentation. First of all, I have a small little task for you. What I want you to do is just write in maybe into the chat, what are the opportunities and challenges that you as a coach working with the youth player face? So what different opportunities do you have, or what kind of challenges do you face when you're coaching the 17 or the 16-year-old player? You can just throw those in the chat for me, to be brilliant.
Silence is golden, waiting for the first one to come in.
Yeah.
Maintaining interest, good one, yeah.
Yeah, very difficult at this age group also. We say we'll hopefully get a few more as we go along through it. So basically, some possible answers for the likes of opportunities that you might face as coaches is the desire to learn. So basically, that's coming from both the players and coming from you yourself as a coach, that you might want to better yourself. So you are on the likes of this webinar, you've gone to foundation courses, maybe award 1s and award 2s. And the same with some of the kids from 16 and 17, they want to better themselves and learn more skills, which again, you're dealing with more skillful players, which is our second point there, but they're also physically developing. So they're getting better, they're getting stronger, they're getting more used to their game and the needs of the game. Then obviously competitions, you're entering them into as many competitions as you possibly can, and also making sure that they're not overloaded with games and stuff like that. Then obviously you're developing a game sense, so how to play to certain structures, how to play to systems, and that's basically all opportunities that you may have when working with under 16 and 17 players. Then
yeah,
obviously,
let's go back for a sec, Philly. Just two ones in here. So from Louise, opportunity to shape them as a person. That's outstanding. They're just challenges on their lifestyle issues and a range of other sports played. Very true. Coaches coach different strengths and abilities of the players, making the training session appeal to all. And too cool for school. Attitude might not pay attention to some drills. Yeah,
big one. That's a big one as well. There are actually some really, really good answers, and I must say, there are some of the ones that we didn't have on the last webinar that we done, which we had the same kind of question, just phrased slightly differently. But there were some really, really excellent answers there. Then obviously, look, we have our challenges. Look, you have participation versus competition. So they're probably coming from the likes of the under 4D, where it's kind of more so participation, into a more structured competition of leagues and championships and deciding on knockout formats and stuff like that. You have the psychological versus biological age. So again, look, that's coming down to maybe attitudes as well. It's also coming down to developmental rates. Some are maybe getting growth spurts, maybe not so much at 16 and 17, but some people may have to learn their body over and over again. Involvement with a number of teams, that also means they're usually involved with a number of different sports. Like we had as one of the answers there, I think it was Louise was the one that said it, I think. So again, you have to be careful that they could be involved with a rugby team, they could be involved with a soccer team, but then they're also going to schools, so they're probably involved with a school team. That could be hurling, that could be GAA football, it could be rugby, and then they're coming down to get involved with the likes of your club teams, and then they're also maybe involved with academy squads within Wicklow itself. So you're looking at that, they could be involved with upwards of 7 or 8 teams. And it's really, really is a big challenge as coaches and clubs to make sure you're not overtraining them, but also that they're still involved enough in the games. Then obviously you have the peer pressure. Some of their peers may not be actually involved in the GAA and may want them to go here or go there or do different activities. And that can be pressure on them. They don't want to be kind of left out of their peer group either. Then they have motivation. What motivates them? Then you obviously have that kind of comes involved with your attitudes as well. So they are some of the possible challenges that you may face as a coach as well. But we've also had some that came through the chat there that are also not listed here. So the list can be endless, but again, these are probably maybe can be seen as opportunities to work on and try to get better in the players.
Yeah,
again,
look, there from
sorry, Willie.
Aspen, too cool for school, might not pay attention to the drills. He's totally right, but so we have to challenge them, and we all know now moving into our Ward 1s that questioning them, like asking questions, like instead of doing drills, a lot of this time we're doing games-based stuff with them. So you're doing attack, defense, puck outs for, puck outs against, and if you involve them and empower them, then it takes away a little bit that they won't pay attention because they own it now. They're a part of it,
Yeah, no, it's 100%. Like you'd often see it there when you go to clubs or you're involved with academies as well. The whole too cool to pay attention or think they kind of know it all the time. And as you said, like it's important to challenge them in different aspects that they may not think they're being challenged in going forward. Then perfect. Look, we move on then to the player pathway. I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with this. Basically, this is a staged approach by the GAA. It's basically a guide as well that players are going to learn different aspects at different age groups. So if you think of it like a bus stop, when a player is at 9, he gets on the bus and he travels to the under 11, under 12 group. He gets off there, he learns a few more skills, maybe new ideas, gets back on the bus, heads for 15. They're off, they're back on, come to 16, 17, 18, when they're playing the likes of the minor, then they're off, they're learning more, let's say, game-based stuff or more practical stuff that they'll use in games, working on systems and play and stuff like that. So basically, the pathway is like a bus journey, and each stop is a progression for them into their adult hurling. How you coach? So look, you are very familiar with these. Hopefully, I'll just run through them just in case. So we have TURAS, which obviously is an anagram for 5 different principles. So we have testing and challenging. Okay, so all players should be challenged in each training session and in games. You should understand the player at the centre of the needs. There's no point in going looking at a training session that was done by an inter-county team and trying to bring it all back to your club team. It may not work because obviously the county team are dealing with the highest level, and obviously we have different abilities in our clubs. So it's important that you understand the players and your teams. Try make your games or try make your sessions resemble games as best you can. Stuff that they're going to use or going to need in games is important. Okay, then we have to have all players involved all the time. Look, that is probably one of the hardest ones. When you're working on stuff, especially at this age group, it's hard to have everyone moving or everyone involved at one time, but it's important to try to have everyone as much as possible involved. We should all also make it enjoyable. Okay, this is a big one that even in adult hurling is a big thing. No one wants to go down to the hurling pitch and do a session that they don't enjoy. Okay, they're just not going to stay at it, or they're not going to come back to the next one. So it's important that we as coaches make sure that our sessions are enjoyable but also developmentally appropriate. So that's going back to understanding the players at the centre of the game. Anything to add on that, Willie?
No, keep going away because the next one is probably even more relevant to some of the stuff we already got and how we could keep them engaged. As you said, numbers, especially when we get back now, you could have 12 people and you could have 4 3-a-side games and you just decide the skills, which I think you're going to show in a minute. So walk away.
Excellent. Perfect. So, we're obviously, I'm just going to show you a short video maybe twice here, and I want you to think of the 5 principles involved in the video. Now, the video is it's not 16 and 17-year-olds, it's more 14 and 15-year-olds, but it's just to try and get the TURAS principles across. So I just want you to look at it, but also make note of, is it testing and challenging? Are the players understood? Does it resemble games and all players involved, or is it enjoyable? Okay, is it enjoyable and developmental friendly? So I'll play it twice and I'll just get you to have a think about it and we'll have a little discussion after.
Moving around the field, striking the ball to each other. Ideally, one player makes the breakaway, looks for the ball, and his colleague tries to strike the ball straight into his hand. Players initially start reasonably close, but as time moves on, they get further and further and further away, so that eventually they're possibly striking 50, 60 and 70 metres accurately. A variation on striking in trees can be, instead of striking to the hand, you strike low on the ground into a player's pat. Again, to replicate maybe a forward moving onto a ball and picking it up at pick.
So I'll just play it one more time just so you have a good opportunity to look at all the 5 principles involved.
Moving around the field, striking the ball to each other. Ideally, one player makes the breakaway, looks for the ball, and his colleague tries to strike the ball straight into his hand. Players initially start reasonably close, but as time moves on, they get further and further and further away, so that eventually they're possibly striking 50, 60 and 70 metres accurately. A variation on striking in trees can be, instead of striking to the hand, you strike low on the ground into a player's pat. Again, to replicate maybe a forward moving onto a ball and picking it up at pick.
Perfect. So I suppose to have a little discussion about that, are all 5 principles involved in it? Just what are your thoughts on those, or is there any of them missing, or which one probably needs the most work? Just to have a quick think about it, or if you want me to play it again, I can play it again for you.
We'll just see if anyone types in, Philly, but just on this one, this is just ideal for minors, and it comes back to Conor Daly's one there. You know, if you have 3 lads and they're striking the ball, and the rule is pass and move, you could start off with a hand pass and move, now do left hand. Then you could just build that into 3v3 game, a hand pass game. You don't need any cones, you don't need anything. 3 hand passes and it's a score. So that would keep any minor engaged. They're working really hard on their physical fitness. It resembles the game. And then you just build it out. Okay, take a break. What do we need to work on there? Now we're going straight into the hand. Back to your trees. Come in, game 3 on 3. So Pat Kenny said here, need to contest the ball to make more games based. That's exactly what I was saying. Well done, Patrick. So, but a great drill for heads up play. So we always want to put that heads up. So win the ball. You could put in a rule. You're only allowed 1 play. So 1 tap on the hurling, you have to pass to someone, and then you bring that into the game. So good observation there, Patrick. You bring it into the game. So, you know, you do this drill and then you bring it into a game. And if you 12 or 18, this is the way to start. Even when, as soon as we go back, this would be a way to start.
Exactly. I was exactly going to pick up on that one, that it's not contested in it. But again, it slightly does resemble the game, but also we want to resemble the game at 16 and 17 where there will be contesting the ball. So, like Willie mentioned there as well, if you make it 3 on 3, they're contesting the ball. Someone should be marking someone all the time. Little groups of games on 3 on 3, blow the whistle, they move and find a different tree to take on. So again, you're just looking at striking and passing and moving, but your whole session could be developed around that. It could be done as the warm-up, it could be done as a skill game, it can be done as a contesting game, and then you can go into your normal game at the end of it. So I suppose the other thing about the TURAS principles is we can use this when we're planning our sessions. So when we're writing out our sessions, we can look at it and go, TURAS, is it testing and challenge? Will that be testing and challenging for my 17 and my 16-year-old players? Okay. Is it appropriate for them? Does it resemble the game? How many of my players are involved? Is there lines? Are they all moving? Etc. And obviously, should it be enjoyable? Unfortunately, we won't be able to predict that one. You'll just have to wait until your section is done. So I hope the video kind of got you thinking about how to use TURAS as you're going along.
Moving around the field.
Perfect. So task 2. What can you as a coach develop in your players? So I want you to write down anything at all that you think you can coach within your players or develop in your players at the 16 and 17 level. So some of you may have done this one before. Let's try to think about specifically for the 16 and 17-year-old. Okay, we already know we can develop the skills. We can develop their strength and stuff like that, but maybe think a little bit more advanced on it. Could be a tricky one now for him. Okay, so if some of the answers come true, will you feed them back to me as we go along?
Okay, so some really good ones coming in. So confidence, decision making, needing to look at their own decision making from Patrick, another really good one. So they are responsible now for their own decision making. So you're questioning them if they do something, but then they own it, and that's a really good. Their ability from Carol, team play. Okay, no one person can win the game on their own from Danny. Jim, team play, switching from defence to attack. Louise, again, enhanced nutrition guidance and lifestyle choices, sleep and recovery, big time. And Connor, leadership. Louise, like just on that one, I mean, there's stuff out there. If you wanted to engage with your 16, 17-year-olds now, that's something they could be looking at now. You know, do a webinar with your own team. Someone in the club knows about nutrition guidance, lifestyle choices, or get back onto one of us in Wicklow. You know, this is where we can engage with them. You know, some of them are sick of doing drills and wall ball. So you could look at doing a nutrition call with them, 30-minute call, and give them stuff. You know, they go shopping, they can make their own protein balls or things like that, you know. So there's great answers. Connor, leader. Yeah.
There's some really good ones. You say we're kind of looking more so at the player themselves rather than what we can physically do on pitch with them. We kind of have to develop good habits. So that might be the likes of nutrition that Louise was talking about, and look into the likes of psychology and stuff like that as we go down the line. So again, look, some possible answers. Look, we have the ones where skilled. Okay, we know that one. I think we had team play the answers. We had this decision making. We also have to incorporate a small bit of discipline along the way. We had going from defending to attacking. We had movement, speed, fitness, good communication. They're all stuff that we have to try and look at developing in our players. And that turns down into the TPP model. So some of you may be familiar, it's made up of 3 T's and it's made up of 3 P's. So the first 3 T's are technical proficiency, tactical prowess, and team play. And then our 3 P's are physical fitness, participant feedback, and psychological focus. Now, they all just look like words on this little side at the minute. But if we move to the next one,
I'll be home at 9:30.
I'll just ask lads just to make sure your microphones are turned off, if that's okay.
I suppose the only thing is, she's still in.
So basically, then we have our anagram of all the aspects of the 3 T's and 3 P's. So we have technical skills, we have our tactical prowess, we have our physical fitness, and we also have our team play. Then we have psychological focus, and we have participant feedback. So that's what it looks like on a diagram. But what goes into each of these segments is another thing. So we'll briefly explain what goes in it for a 16 and a 17-year-old in the following slides. So, efficiency. As you can see, there's a definition there. These were all developed by the GAA. I don't need to read them back to you. So you can look at those kind of yourselves and explain a few other bits and pieces. So an example of this would be your striking. Ground, hand pass, off the hurl, on the run. You're looking at handling, which is hand passing. You're catching, 3 types of catching. You're soloing, you're batting. So it is. Then you're looking at your tackle, which is your blocking, your hooking, flicking the ball off the hurl, flicking the ball out to space. So it's covering all the kind of things that they do on the pitch and all the skills of the game. Then we look at our tactical prowess. Again, we have a big wordy kind of definition, but that just basically boils down to decision making, guided discovery, trial and error, learning from mistakes, observation and feedback. And again, don't worry, we'll look at these a little bit more in detail as we get to the skill card itself. Then we're looking at our team play. It's basically looking at the players around you, okay? Adapting to playing styles, questioning of players that was mentioned earlier on, putting a bit of onus on them to get the answers back or get the reasons why. And obviously reflection on how things maybe went after a game, during a session, during training, stuff like that. Why things may have went well, why things maybe went wrong. When you're looking at reflection, it's not all about looking at things that went bad. You're not looking for the things that went bad all the time. You're looking for some of the positive stuff that they know they done well. And that all returns back to building confidence in the players that was mentioned in a previous task. Then we have our physical fitness, so you're also looking at developing the flexibility, speed, strength, and agility, balance, and coordination are not to be overlooked. When we talk about strength, everyone hears about, oh, this is conditioning, strength and conditioning. We're not talking about weights here, okay? No young player should be in a gym or in a gym environment if they do not know how to support their own body weight. So this is basically getting them used to supporting their own body weight, your planks, your push-ups, your wheelbarrow races, make it fun, okay? If they can't support their own body weight, there's no point in having them near the likes of sessions in gyms and stuff like that. And again, when you're working on strength, it's important to keep your flexibility and your speed, and it's important to work on those three at the bottom, okay? Everyone sees agility, balance, and coordination for younger ages. It should be done throughout, even into adult level. Then we look at our participant feedback, okay? This is where we're kind of looking at the two-way communication. You're looking at good examples from both individual and from inter-county, so you're using maybe an inter-county as a good example, and then getting it to replicate into your sessions. Individual questions on decision made, so maybe you might be asking your corner forward, how did you come to the decision to take the shot? Okay, and then obviously he may tell you, so it's not just a yes answer or a no answer. Was it a good decision? No. Okay, they're the kind of questions you're going to leave on the side. You want them exploring other options or looking for things that they may have missed. So if it was a shot, there could have been someone in a better position to take a shot. Then you're looking at your psychological focus. Okay, this is all about attention. Okay, and unfortunately, only at 16 and 17-year-olds, you'll be looking at the self-analysis of how it done, what did I do well, maybe what did I miss, stuff like that is what you're looking at that age group. That all boils down to how we build our player. All these segments of this chart are all about how we build our player, and without these, or without a number of these, we just won't be able to build the player. Just wondered, do you have anything on that, Willie?
No, but it's just vital. I mean, if you'll see the skill card in a minute, which is the bottom. If you use the skill card, Philly will talk about in a minute. This all builds the player. But again, a lot of these is reinforcing what you already know. So when we ask the questions there, you come up with the answers. So it's good to know you know your players and you know how to train them. What we'd like you to do is use this TURAS presentation that you might be missing one area and make sure that you could sort of include all these areas in each session, and then you'll have a complete player at his or her level where they are now in their own player pathway.
Yeah, 100%. So it's all about just maybe little aspects that you may have missed. As you say, you probably know the majority of it. Now it's just categorizing it and looking more in depth at maybe areas that we may have missed and may have to develop in our players and in our clubs. So that brings us on then to our skill card for the 16 and 17-year-old. So like we said, look, the technical skills are all your striking, your tackling, hand passing, catching, all the stuff like that. And the same with physical fitness on the bottom left. Okay, you're looking at your flexibility, speed, your strength, all stuff like that. Okay, but then if we look at our tactical prowess, we're looking at decision making. Okay, we're using our questions to vary coaching style to improve players. Okay, that's the main thing about decision making. We're looking for guided discovery. Show me when it's best to solo the ball, okay? Show me when is the best option to shoot, okay? Show me the best options you have when you're stuck in the corner with a ball, okay? Then you're allowing trial and error, okay? Some things you'll have to try and they're going to have to go wrong before we get the gist or pare it back down for them to get the full picture that we want. Then we have to look at our observation and our feedback. Let's watch this and see how it goes, okay? Stuff like that. Excuse me. Then we have our team player, okay? Challenge them to adapt to a number of playing styles, okay? Use a different style maybe every couple of weeks just to try and get them thinking so they're not getting used to playing the long ball or the ball to the corner or cross field and stuff like that. Use a variety of them. For all we know, your team could be good at all 3 or 4 styles that you may have in your head. But there's no good just playing one because you know they're good at it. Test them along the way as well. Again, use questions to help players problem solve in the game. Okay, so again, that's just asking different questions that might be specific to the player. Okay, reflect on the scenarios in training sessions. So if you set up something and you know there's about 4 or 5 different scenarios, talk through them at the end of it. Okay, don't spend 20 minutes or half an hour talking about it. Just spend a good 5 to 10 minutes talking about the different scenarios and which one was best or what can be worked better in that scenario. Then we have our psychological focus in the center, and that's basically recognize the improvements that they need to make themselves. So it's important to make sure that they know the area they need to work on. There's no point in them thinking that they need to work on striking and they're able to strike it off left and right when they might not be able to catch the ball. So that might be an area for them to work on, and it's all about questioning and stuff like that. Okay. Then you obviously have your participant feedback, which is a two-way street. Okay, we have to be able to talk to them, but they also have to be able to talk back to you and give you the answers that you're looking for them to talk about. So that's basically the core of the skill card, okay, and core of the TURAS skill cards that we were given. Again, we have 4 aspects on the outside, okay, so you have the coach. I'm not going to read down through them. They're all fairly similar enough. It's all about being planned, being organised, okay, using simple language, stuff like that, okay. Twitter coaching, I mentioned in my last one, the less words you use, the more goes into the player, okay? If you stand here and you say 300 different words in the sentences and stuff like that, they might only get 150 of it if you're lucky. Okay, the environment, just to make it aware, it should be coach to player ratio 1 to 10 as best you can. Try have 1 sitter for every 2 players. If not, have more, okay? Enjoyment and fun is still part of it, okay? It can't all be just sergeant majors and stuff like that in the pitch. You still have to have a bit of fun. Maybe at the end of it, a crossbar challenge, something like that. Okay, just to have a little bit of a laugh at the end of it and wind down. The game then, obviously, players being to become more accustomed to specific positions and also specific playing style that you might have. Aim to provide at least 16 games in the season, and obviously it's a size 5 still. The player is probably another difficult one at 16 and 17-year-olds because we did mention it earlier on, the challenges and the opportunities that we face. So the player, strong connection with admire adults, okay? So they're looking at the guys that were playing the inter-county levels, okay? They're looking at the Joe Cannons, the Patrick Horgans, okay? The Seamus Cannons, TJ Reeds. They're looking at all those and they want to aspire to be them. The ability to mix with all teammates and adults, okay? Make sure they're all interacting together. Commitment to individual practice away from coaching sessions. Remind them at the end of each session that they do have to practice a bit on their own, okay? If they want to improve and be the best player they possibly can, they will have to do some of it at home themselves. They're personally responsible for hydration and nutrition, and you can also put into that one, as you can see in the next one, they have to manage their rest and recovery, okay? We're not just talking about going home and not doing nothing for this, that, and the other. You're looking at your foam rolling, your recovery sessions, sleeping, stuff like that. And you also have to manage your time efficiently between school and sport. As you know, you may be dealing with exam situations along the way, so it's important that you're getting a good balance of both physical work and educational work. That kind of brings the whole presentation together in that skill card alone. And I forgot to mention at the start, I will be emailing all this out to you tomorrow, so don't worry if I've missed that or if you want to look at something in more detail. But maybe will you want to come in there on some of that?
Yeah, just the player and the participant feedback at this age is very, very important. If you make them feel that you really cared about them, well, they'll respect you and they give you more back. And another way of it's good, even at this point in time, you could, for example, just send out, you're not trying to catch them or trick them. You could say, listen, what other sports are you playing and what training are you doing? So if someone's playing another sport the previous night, or a few of them are, and they've done a real physical session, well, you could make your session a skill or a games-based session. So the more you know about them, the better. So you could get them to just all fill out a player profile about what other sports they're playing. What I'd always do in that one as well is let them tell you back their 3 strengths. So what are they strongest at? Okay, whether it's skills or tactical or physique, and then say, what areas would you like help on? So you're not saying, what are you bad at? You're saying, what areas would you like us to improve on? And then if you see a team through that from the players giving you feedback is tell them it's confidential, it's between you and them, and that you're going to try and work with them. Now, so if someone said, oh, okay, I'm not great at blocking, and you were able to set up a scenario for him, you know, a game that's involved blocking, and you just said to him on his own, or her, listen, this is all about you tonight. I'm doing this for what you sent me back. That's where, now, go back to, I think it was Connor's one earlier on, you're engaging them, it won't be bored, but you're challenging them, but you are letting that player know you really think of him. And also that from his player profile, that you actually read it and you put it into action. So a player profile, at this age, is all about getting feedback from them, and it's all about the player. If you coach, if you have 20 on your team and you treat everyone as an individual when you're coaching them, well, then you'll have 20 players all going to play for each other and then play for you as well. So the player is very important at this age.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Like, it's all about that coach-player relationship and letting them know that you are there to help them improve themselves. And as Willie said, if that means you're tailoring a session around one player, do it, and then tailor around another player next night and stuff like that, and show them that you've actually took the time to read the likes of what Willie said there, their strengths and stuff like that, or maybe what they're maybe weak at. Use that as you're going forward. On the back of this card then as well, we have down the left hand side is basically a reminder of what the TURAS principles are, and then down the centre is just a sample session. Again, I won't go down through it. You'll be able to read that one maybe yourselves tomorrow once I send it out to you. And that session there is looking at maybe trying to get as many of the 5 principles involved as they possibly can. The next bit now of the presentation will be basically all around resources, and there is a new aspect which is basically in the next slide, but the first one is the GAA 15 warm-up. Some of you may know this one, some of you may not know this one, but it's a pretty good warm-up, okay? It's both for hurling and football, and it's basically to copy any movements that happen within the GAA. We want to activate all the major muscle groups and joints they'll be using. So shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, anything that they're going to be using, this warm-up is designed to activate all those. This is also designed to reduce and limit the likelihood of injuries within your teams. The last thing you want is a 16 and 17-year-old getting the likes of a hamstring injury, okay? Because a hamstring injury is something that will be there forever. And if not recovered properly, it will certainly be there throughout their adult playing career. You see the link for it there. I'll send out the link tomorrow directly for the video. There's a video that will show you how to do it. In that link also, there is actually print-offs of how you can implement a session on the pitch for you. There's one there for both hurling and for both football. It's one warm-up that I would definitely take into consideration, especially at 16 and 17-year-olds, okay? If not, it's just to limit the amount of injuries, but also activate all the joints and muscles that they're going to be using. The next one was developed in line with TURAS, and it's out this year kind of just as an added bonus. It's the youth coach resource. That is basically where we have a number of sessions for the 16 and 17-year-old player. In that also, there is a session that looks at goalkeeping, and there's also sessions for 14 and 15-year-olds. You will get a copy of that whole booklet electronically, obviously, and there's different teams to each of those sessions, okay? There's 4 to 5, I think, different sessions on it off the top of my head. And they look at different aspects of maybe team play, stuff that we've looked at on the card. It is a really, really good resource. The sessions are actually done out that you can use straight away when hopefully we get back in hurling as soon as possible in the near future. You can use these sessions straight away out on the pitch. Just have a look at it, set it up, and put them into it. Again, I would take your time to look at this resource when I send it out tomorrow. Then we have the Leinster GAA website itself. Again, you'll get the link that's on top of it in a Word document also tomorrow. And as you can see, look, we have child resources, youth resources, and adult resources. Obviously, we're looking at the youth player, so I'll be looking at that one straight away first. Then, if you like, you can have a look at the likes of adult resources and child resources. And within each of those aspects, there's different games, skills, drills, anything you need in those to get you through a session or to help improve your session along the way. Again, only you can look at this. We could spend hours upon hours on this webinar going through all these resources, but the reason why they're on this is because they are good resources. So again, take the time to have a look at it. You will definitely use them in your sessions going forward throughout the year. Then there's a number of YouTube links that I'm going to send out to you also, and these are the ones here. You'll get the full video from the one that we used with the TURAS principles, which was done by Martin Fogarty, which is the National Hurling Development Officer. He does one there that covers all the skills in the game, and that can be used in all your sessions if you need to. It's a really good watch. It's on YouTube. Even if you want to have a look at YouTube after this webinar, just Google Martin Fogarty. There's numerous videos of him. The next one then is basically done by Derek McGrath, which is a really good practical session he does. There's about 10 videos in it, and it's also incorporating the Cork Camogie manager as well and trainer, and they look at systems of play and how to develop a system of play. If any of you are having struggle doing that, have a look at Derek's on this one. It's done by Ulster GA itself as well. Really good, but it's definitely worth a look. I spent a good time looking at this one. I thought it was by far one of the best ones out there. Like I said, there's 10 practical videos on it. You'll definitely get 3 or 4 different aspects that you can use in your sessions. And then obviously, look, there's a club visit model in place. It's made up of 3 steps. So basically, you attend a workshop or a webinar like you've done tonight. That entitles you to 2 club visits. The first one is where the likes of the GPO or the Hurling GDA myself come out and we assist the club trainer in a session. Then we come back out the second time where we have a look at the coach taking the lead for the session and offering some feedback along the way. The best way to do this is basically contact your GDA or contact your GPO, and they'll arrange visits, and obviously that is hopefully going to happen in the near future once we get back up and going. But look, really take advantage of the likes of that model that's there in place. I suppose that kind of brings us up then to the end of the presentation. If you have any kind of questions whatsoever, feel free to put them into the chat or to raise your hand there and stuff, and we'll trash them out. They say it's a good opportunity now to answer or to ask them questions, considering there is a small group on the webinar itself. Might just see, does Willie have anything to add to that there also?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Philly. Just 2 ones, because we're a part of Leinster, we're allowed mention and rob other people's ideas. So there's a great app. If you go into the App Store for Hurling, it's called The Hurler. It's designed by Kilkenny. We were on a call explaining it about 2 weeks ago. It is brilliant. You just download it on your phone and all the resources are there, skill challenges. It's a really good app. And as I said, it's on your phone. And it brings you into different sample training sessions. For this age group, and I know he's on the call, so I don't want to embarrass him, but there's one of the best webinars you can look at genuinely. Is called Building Systems of Play. It's just outstanding. I've seen it twice now. If you just go on it, it's on next Wednesday. Sorry, it's this Wednesday at 8 o'clock. I would recommend, especially 16, 17 minor managers, ladies football camogie, you will get an awful lot out of this. It'll give you stuff to go away thinking about. Okay, how am I going to build a system of play for my team? But you will have to answer questions like, have you Kieran Donaghy, have you speed people around it? So it's showing you how to use the players to the best of your advantage to build a system of play that suits you. So that's this Wednesday at 8 o'clock. So I'd highly recommend you go on that. And they're just saying thank you, but that's from Paul. So it's on the call there, Philly, Building the Systems of Play.
Yeah.
I presume a link will go out for that, will it, Philly? I'm sure.
Yeah. They say that's kind of kicking off our June webinar series, so that will all be sent out to you throughout the week tomorrow mainly. And the other thing is just, I know, look, things are fairly light on pitches, and we're not exactly able to do anything at the minute, but it's a great opportunity to make contact with your GPO or make contact with your GDA and just trash out some ideas if you need them, or if you just need advice on anything, the likes of maybe going back to playing and stuff like that. Just don't be afraid to pick up the phone or even just drop an email and say, look, we are here still to help you. I know the activity is limited, but now is one of the best times, I suppose, to educate yourself, but also to pick up a few different ideas or something like that. You know, it's important that you keep trying to better your sessions as you go forward. They say better sessions mean we get better players. I suppose then if there is no more
Just saying
questions,
thank you for the presentation to yourself, and no questions coming in there.
yeah. And sorry, just to finish up, I'd say just to reiterate that Willie's on our call there as well, because he is relaying the stuff across to us there. So look, if there is no questions, we'll leave it there, and hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of the good weather. I think it's supposed to last for a couple of days. The other thing I wanted to say is thanks to Willie for helping me on the call, because you do need to too. And again, look, just stay safe, and hopefully we'll all be back hurling the ball on the pitch soon. Thanks very much, guys.
Right, thanks all. Bye bye.